Well, today was a bit productive, so did my analysis yesterday for a couple hours, whatnot, and Friday, and then went back on today, and everything was erased. Um, so I just had to do it all again. So it only took me about 51 minutes, which was pretty good actually, to be honest, considering it took me a couple hours over the weekend and Friday. So going straight into it, yeah, this week's looking pretty good. You can do a little bit of pattern separation here, just kind of looking at things more so on a pattern basis. However, the real sort of areas I'm looking at are these sort of inflection points, but I've kind of drawn it out like this because this is just something that I'm going to be looking at throughout the week. And yeah, so yeah, cool. So DXY, top-down analysis, weekly, looking at this high value zone. We didn't obviously meet that, but we did come in with a 1, 2, 3 to this inflection point here. We did break that and push back down with conviction. As we can see that we've been pulling down pretty aggressively. What we can see on the daily is that we've had impulse correction into another correction, meaning that we could come up a little bit further than we expect, creating something a little bit larger. However, nevertheless, because of the momentum we have, this could be, this is one separate pattern. This can be a whole different pattern in itself. So we could see this potentially scoop into something like this, which could even come up to here and scoop up, tap into that, and then sell off, which is a very much possibility. Or we can see the scoop correctively come here, tap into this inflection point here, and then sell off as well. So there's no way to say that it has to come up here to these zones. I think that it's definitely a potential, but there's a lot of inflection points on the way that we could tap into and then just get a dramatic sell off and then not actually come back up here. So keeping that in mind, it's a very strong possibility. Also looking at potential patterns evolving within here. So we might get something like, well, with current price action, it's not easy to tell what this could potentially develop into. However, there's a few potentials on the table. So we just have to wait and evaluate it as each day goes on. Okay, next one I'm looking at is USD yen. USD yen on the weekly is looking very bearish at the moment. So similar to the DXY, we've basically had a strong sell momentum at the moment. We tapped into this override with a 1, 2, 3, which is really nice. From there, we rejected with a little bit of aggression. As we can see on the daily now, we came down, we created a large flag, we pushed down with aggression, we created something a little bit larger, didn't really complete a 3 touch, but we did 2, and then we created something smaller and pushed again. Right now, we're creating another correction, so we can say that this is a correction into a correction into a correction at the moment. So this can get a little bit more complicated. So these are ones that I think you have to be quite smart with it, especially if you are taking good entries, because this can just get a little bit messier and kind of come up here and then go, loads of variations of things that can happen. But the one thing I do like is that if we do look at it, we had this sort of momentum that kind of evolved into this, tapped in, we evolved again, and it has this sort of feel that we're kind of now moving into the bear trend again. So we've had this, and now with this sort of middle section completed, we actually might have enough momentum to come back down to these lows, which I do like. So seeing it on the 15-minute, what I'm looking for is another correction, but we have enough to just sell off from here, which is very nice. I've got an entry in up here. It was AFT. So what we can see on the middle section is we had a 1, 2, 3. First touch over here wasn't the most obvious until these 2 touches were made. The inflection point was over here. We tapped in over here, scooped, tapped in again, scooped, created 2 bottoms, 2 tops to this middle section. And then we saw that, okay, cool, great. If this taps in here, wait for the push up, push down, and a flag. What we saw was simply that. Push down, flag, push down again, larger flag, push down. Now we're creating something a little bit larger and we'll sell off. So this trade feels at some level of well protected. I am still holding that trade, so hopefully this will commit and be able to help me scale to my next stage. But what I'm looking at right now is basically this pattern. So I'm looking at something like this. This can get a little bit more complicated. It is what it is, but I'll just wait it through. But like I said, this does have full potential to scoop, come back up, sell off, scoop, come back up even further, create something a little bit more complicated. There's a lot of variations of what can happen. However, at the moment, keeping it very simple, push down, a flag, and a The next one I'm going to be looking at is CAD yen. CAD yen is very similar to USD yen, which is no surprise. However, what we have over here, and in no means do we have to fill this gap here. Okay, this is more than enough in my opinion now that we basically, if we go to the higher time frame, we can see that it's very similar to USD yen. Well, we have an inflection point over here. We basically had the override, we had the 1, 2, 3, and we had this middle section. Not the cleanest in the world. However, we're getting momentum at the moment, which is very nice. So if we just have a little look over here and remove this override line because it's not really as relevant anymore, we can see that this is the high. So we'll just call this the high value area. We've pushed away from that aggressively. As we go down to the daily, what we can see is when we pushed away from it, we did scoot back up, we pushed down, created a flag, and we pushed down again, creating another flag. And now we're looking for the next continuation pattern, which is currently happening. Now, as we know with CAD yen, it's not usually the cleanest for an entry. So we have to read between the lines. And what we can see over here is if we waited over here, this would have been a missed entry as well. Over here would have been a missed entry. So looking at it over here, this is all probably intentional. And I think this can just sell off and catch people out thinking that price is going to come all the way up here, but price can actually sell off. However, it is possible, hence the reason why I've left it on here as an override. But looking at it over here, what I can see is we have impulse, impulse, small correction, strong impulse, larger correction, impulse down. So there's more than enough room for price to correct to this point here or this point up here. Because I'm already scaled into this and I have got an entry up here, I'm not looking to get into this position immediately. I would like to let it see develop into structure before I get involved. However, there is the possibility that it can scoop all the way back up, break this high, push back down, create a flag, and then we get involved again. But at the moment, like I said, larger flag, push down, and then let's see it come back all the way down here. And then when it does reach this low or this low here, we can then evaluate and see if we break impulsively, keep going, or if we push back up, create a flag, and then we create something a little bit more complicated, which would not be of a surprise considering how CAD yen could develop. But we're so early in the run, I'm not concerned about you know kind of tightening my stops. I think being a bit more passive at this point is something of interest to me because if we did create something larger over time, then I would evaluate it then. But I think at the moment, this can just drop off. And then if it does drop off and it's down here, could be around about 10, 15, 20, 30, 50%, whatever the situation, depending on your position, you'd be so much happier. So, I think holding on to positions like this in these areas, I think are definitely more so valuable than kind of just getting out the market because there's a potential that this could happen. So for that reason, I'll just be holding on to CJ, see how that develops, and if I get taken out, just get re-entered later. But I think it's a really, really good pair. It's definitely evolved a lot over the course of the past few 2 weeks, but it's been really nice to monitor and trade. So yeah. Next one I'm going to be looking at is New Zealand yen. This is one of my favorite ones on my watch list this week. I think it is for quite a lot of people that are looking at it. So on the weekly, what we can see is that we've had a 1, 2, 3. It's not really going to anywhere significant, but it doesn't really need to. Looking at how all the yen pairs are powering up and also the JP225 about to get a lot of strength, we could see that a lot of pairs, yen pairs, are going to be dropping off quite aggressively. So would that be a surprise? Not really, because looking at something like this, we might actually get some heavy momentum, and you want to be positioned on the right side of the market for that, in my opinion. So what I'm looking at right now is, and it'll be a little bit more clearer on the 1 hour actually. So on the 1 hour, we can see that, there's a potential for this 1, 2, 3 and an inflection point here. We can definitely push up a little bit higher and then come back in and create a flag and go. That's the entry that I'll be looking for, depending. Well, yeah, really and truly, that is the entry. I think the risk entry is definitely solid. And I think if the risk entry is in there with a decent amount of pip size, because New Zealand yen is actually pretty decent for a 10 pip stop loss. But if there is something around about that, like as a retrace, well, it probably wouldn't be. It'd probably be around about 18, to be honest. But if there was a retrace roughly around about like this size over here, would I take it? Absolutely. 110%. Would I then opt in for an AFT once I've mitigated risk? Absolutely, once again. Now, those are the sort of entries that I'll be looking for. Really and truly, I'll be looking for that, that prime AFT entry. I think that is the solid entry that I'll be opting in for, to be honest, rather than the risk entry. However, it'll be evaluated there and then. They're both in my plan. I think more so AFT is more so the one that I'll be favoring if it is available. However, as we know that we'll be going into a strong bearish momentum, the retrace may be the more preferred one because we may just sell off and not really get that clear AFT entry. We might just get the 50-minute flag and then have to AFT that. So we'll have to wait and see. But honestly, in terms of earning potential, in terms of possibility, it's very high. I think the probability of this dropping off and going down aggressively is very high. I would not be surprised if by January we are down here somewhere and we're looking back on our portfolio thinking, incredible run, honestly, absolutely incredible throughout December. Thinking that it'll be one of the slowest months. Nah, not at all. Don't take your foot off the gas, in my opinion, on this pair. So that's basically how I'm going to be taking these. All right, the next pair I'm going to be looking at is Aussie Swiss. Aussie Swiss has basically tapped into this very nice sort of section over here. Now, in no means does this have to pull back up, but I think, given the pair that it's kind of pushed down, become very corrective, and then kind of just impulse down to this point and now pull back up, I think there's a strong possibility that we could create something a little bit larger, or this could be enough momentum for this to just pull back. Not all the way up, sorry, but all the way to around about the override zone. So, like I said, sometimes these pairs can catch you out and just sell off. But I think this isn't the sort of sell off momentum I'm looking for. I think impulse, correction, continuation, absolutely. There isn't that strong correction over here. It's just been very corrective on the way up and then corrective on the way down and then had an impulse to move to here, but it's overall corrective. So I wouldn't be surprised if this starts making its way back up here. I'd be looking at that very closely because what I've tend to notice is um, structure is actually pretty nice on these pairs. Once you actually really understand them, you can actually capitalize pretty well on pairs like this. So I wouldn't be surprised if it looks messy, but ultimately drilling down on it, it gets a little bit cleaner. And then when you know what to look for, it just becomes extremely clean. So I know what pairs, I know what patterns I'm going to be looking for. I know what sort of entries I'll be looking for. But yeah, so essentially I'll keep it quite simple here. Two tops, two bottoms, push down, push back up, a flag, and let's go. It's an entry I'll be looking for on this one. Honestly, phenomenal. If I was able to get an entry in here, odds are it's probably just going to push off in the morning and we won't get the entry. But, I think even if I call it around about 11, 12, let's say 13 pip stop loss, just to be extra safe for myself. More safe than needed, but it's better safe than sorry. We move to inflection point 1, we're looking at roughly 11%, and then over here, you're looking at roughly 16%. And honestly, that could fly. It could absolutely fly. And then we push back down because there's more than enough momentum already built up in here for this to go up, come back down with an impulse. So we'll have to wait and see. But honestly, very, very nice pair. We'll just have to wait and see. Obviously, this can correct and just push down even further. So I'm not going to just jump into the trade blindly. I'm just going to evaluate it carefully and then wait and see if it's something that I want to be taking and it's within my plan. So that's basically how I'm nice. The next one I'm going to be looking at is Aussie US dollar. So Aussie US dollar is it's very interesting actually because we've basically had this corrective squeeze, but we didn't tap into that. So for that reason, I think we might complete the 90% rule and then reject here and push up. So this could be a really nice buying opportunity over here. But once again, it's just an inflection opportunity. Removing that, kind of in the middle of nowhere anyway. So I would be on my management game taking this entry just purely on the basis that if this sort of price action, if I can find the tool, there is. So if I had this sort of price action, but meeting with this high over here, it'd be a little bit different because then in that way, I'd be looking at it like, well, okay, so we've had potentially got this, and then we've got an override over here. and then we've tapped into something with this 1, 2, 3 where it's different, because this then shows me that, okay, cool, we've had a 1, 2, 3 leading to it. Then I understand why that sold off. But at the moment, I don't have that. I don't have that at all. So because that's not even there, I think it's more so a case of, well, we're kind of in the middle of nowhere and there is potential for it to go lower. So when I do look at it here, it just kind of looks like a bit of corrective price, nothing more. So I'm not gonna fixate on this, but we did move down aggressively, like hella aggressively. We kind of had the point of sale over here. So if I kind of show you, we had a point of sale over here, but we didn't break that high. We just tapped into something and then just sold off. So once again, there's a 1, 2, 3. Not the cleanest in my opinion, but it doesn't always have to be. If we create a larger flag here, I'll look for push up, push down, and then push back here, sorry, and then push up, breaks a little bit, it pushes back down, creates a flag, and then we sell. That's the sort of entry I'll be looking for. I'll look for the push down and the flag, and then I think it was around about 11 pips, 12 pips. It's about 15. I think 15 is applicable, and then yeah, I'll be down here around 8%, and then at that point, there I could reevaluate and probably get out the market. So that's the entry I'm looking at. Like I said, it's not one of the most favored positions, but I think it's a solid position. Just given the context of this, that's a strong possibility if it plays out, especially with this large flag. That's enough momentum for it to just impulse. And I think if I take this sort of pole and stick it over here, this could definitely break through. So if it does do that, then we make our way back down here. Well, at that point there, we can say, well, we did come from a significant reversal, but to which area? And then maybe I might gather some more information and be like, okay, we had something like this. And then I'll be a little bit more enlightened and be like, okay, cool. So now I'm seeing something a little bit, a little bit more, I'm just trying to, I don't want to force the market in a way, because this isn't a traditional pattern, but this trend line would make some level of sense, and then it's been evolved. And then let's just say I want to keep it parallel. Then I take this, put it down here, and I say, okay, this could be the beginning of a new run. And then we're making our way back down to this low. So in terms of market positioning, I'm quite happy with that. And that's one of the reasons why I put this on my watch list, because I feel that in terms of market positioning, if this is going to be committing lower, this could be something very significant, or it could be a beginning of a new pattern that I'm yet to get involved in. So it could be something like this. And then we could say, okay, cool. So this is just another correction to go lower, something like that. So that's basically what I'm looking at for. And the next one I've got is EuroCAD. EuroCAD's fairly simple. On the weekly, we can see we've been moving up with a strong, aggressive, bullish momentum. It's not the most sustainable price action for it to continuously moving bullish week after week after week. However, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And we have to definitely, hands down, appreciate the fact of this run, because that is what a lot of people die for, honestly. Like, bloody hell, that is an insane run over the course of September to December. Honestly, couldn't even tell you, honestly, how much money could have been made in here. Let's just say you slapped an entry over here. You're able to even capitalize on, you know, call it 10 pips, let's say 12 pips, whatever. Even to this high, man, you're looking at 100% in your portfolio, insane returns. So anyway, what I'm looking at is this override point here. Obviously, looking at the mass psychology point, I want to see a strong push up, push back down in the flag, and then we could be creating something a lot larger, or we could be making our way somewhat back down significantly to, some low over here. There's a lot of inflection points, so there'll be a lot of patterns on the way down as well, which I like. So we'll have to wait and see and evaluate, but this is going to be phenomenal. I think the best time to be trading it is once we've committed. So we've gone up, we pushed down, and we started getting some commitment. That's it. So yeah. Wicked. So next week, looking at my wildcards, unfortunately, don't have any commodities or indices this week. I thought I'd keep it purely forex. See how that goes. Last week was sick. This week is gonna be even better. I think that's the one thing about trading. You got to make it fun. Got to change it up every now and again. There's so much opportunity on the table. I think when there's times like this, just enjoy it. Honestly, like you know what to do, just do it. Pick what you like, pick what you want to trade. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But if it happens, you're going to feel 10 times better. So maybe even 100. But anyway, so looking at GBP yen. GBP yen on the weekly, as we can see, we have been moving very correctively, very messy, if in my opinion, very, very messy. We haven't tapped into anything significant as well. However, we have been creating some sort of patterns within patterns within patterns. Honestly, it's a good pair to trade, just need to read between the lines. So what we can see over here is we had an inflection point, call it the override. We had a 1, 2, 3, which didn't quite complete. However, we could be creating this. So as we can see in the high time frame, we are in a bullish momentum. We're moving very correctively, correction into further more corrections, impulse corrections. It's just there's so much happening in here. Got to really read between the lines. But getting involved on the right side of the market during each move is probably the most strategic way to go. So it can feel like you're swing trading, but really and truly, you're just trading what you see. So as we can see, we tap in over here, we sell. As we tap in over there, we're looking to see the market go to the next point. We tap in there and we actually fill this price in over here. And then, is it no surprise, we start rejecting all the way back up. That strong candle over there, strong bullish momentum follows. Could have got involved so many times. And then now we're creating a very messy bull flag. What I do like about this is if we look at it like this, what we're seeing is a trend. We're seeing the push down, the correction, the push down, the correction, push down, correction, so forth. It doesn't have to go all the way down there. To be honest, we could tap into this point over here. We could even tap into here. But what I do like about this is we are creating that bull flag sort of momentum, or it can form into a running channel, but at the moment it looks like a bull flag. So middle section looks like it's actually made, and which I like about it a lot, because given the circumstance that if this plays out, this can be very financially rewarding. So this is just an inflection point. I won't let this change anything with the short-term move. Just allows me to clear up price a little bit more. And then if we just kind of look at price here, there wasn't anything significant we could really say there was anything to do with that. So looking at it like that, it's not really the sort of pattern I'd look at. So I just left it with the override. How we're looking at this now is we've tapped into that value area. We've pushed down. We did correctively push down, giving that running channel sort of feel, and then we rejected. We came all the way back up. We didn't feel that. Would I say that's a near miss? Absolutely not. I would say there was more than enough. That was just taking people out of the market and then confusing people. We had a push down, we had a flag, push down another flag, push down another flag. So correction into correction into correction. And then we had an impulse. Once again, we did the same thing. We scooped up, took people out, and now we're doing the same. So management definitely needs to be on the game, because what I'm seeing as a current pattern for this short-term trend is this. We have that aggressive push, we start moving, started convincing people that we're selling, then we get this one strong push, and then we just get this sort of scoop back up, takes people out, and then we sell. Push down, scoops back up, and then we sell. So what I'm going to be looking for right now is probably not the same as the scoop right now, because I think we're in sort of well, yeah, essentially I think we're in this stage again over here. So if I just kind of take this out, I put it over here, just an observation, doesn't have to happen. That can possibly happen as well. And then we scoop up, we tap into this. It looks like it taps into the point of sale sort of area. Doesn't quite make it though. So we'll see. And then we'll see where it goes. But how I'm looking to take this, I'm going to keep it very simple, keep it traditional, 1, 2, 3, looking at tap into this, push back up, we tap into there, push back down, taps into the third touch, impulses straight back up, push back down, flag, and then I'm in the trade. And then I'll try squeeze that in. If I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. It doesn't look like the impulsive wave is giving much of these AFT entries anyway. So I think to be very, very honest, it will be a retrace entry, in my opinion. I don't think the AFT entry will be there for me. So it will be more so this entry here. It is what it is. I mean, even if it's a 36 pip stop loss, probably unlikely. It'll probably be in the region of, yeah, about 20, 27, 28, about here. That's the sort of entry I'll be looking at. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. And yeah, I think GBP yen might be a very interesting pair to be trading. So I'll just put RC retrace candle. Cool. Cool. Yeah, cool. That's if I go to my next wild card, I'll be looking at GA. Now, just have a little minute and look at GA, right? GA has become extremely messy. Now, I don't think it's become the sort of messy that um, puts me off from taking a short, but the sort of messy that I think it could get a little bit more complicated before we sell. Something a little bit like I'm seeing with New Zealand yen, where we were ready, but then we kind of just created a little bit more complicated squeeze, and then we're coming up for one more push. And I think that's what I'm seeing with GJ. I'm seeing it kind of correctively squeeze here, push up, and then sell. But there's more than enough in this massive picture here for it to sell. We tapped into this, we pushed down, we created a larger flag over here, got very messy, and then we're selling. So hence the reason if I get a push, a flag, and a sell, I'll be getting in there. If we kind of pull back up, we tap into the high, push back down, create a flag, and we sell, I'll be getting involved in that flag. That's pretty much as simple as it gets. If we impulse aggressively, this just gets extended and pushed down here somewhere. And it kind of just works in my favor regardless. So I am looking at the short. If we look at it on a little bit of the higher time frame, what we can see over here, and I'm taking it off, is we've tapped into this. So this would be the higher time frame, 1, 2, 3. This would be the inflection point. We've tapped into that inflection point with the 1, 2, 3, and now we're looking at that short move. Does the short move come all the way down here? We can't really tell you that right now. But what I can say is that there could be a 90% rule on the table over here. So we come back down to this low. If we come back down to this low, that would be a monstrosity of a move. Or if we come back down here, that would also be a crazy move as well. So this would be my first target zone, second, third, and then that would just be extras. But that's really what. The next one I'm looking at on my wildcards is GP New Zealand. So GP New Zealand's one I've been looking at for quite a while now. We've got this sort of, call it a high value area, to be honest. And then I've got this override section over here. And then I've got this 1, 2, 3 sort of squeeze. Now, this is not the sort of most traditional sort of pattern I'd be looking at, to be honest. I think definitely we're just in this area here where there's a lot of value. I think a lot of people were trying to go long, so we're just pulling out the market to catch people out before we pull back in, and that's how I'm actually seeing it genuinely. I think it can. I'm very neutral with it because we can get that strong aggressive sell, and sellers can get into the market and just kind of continuously push this. But what I'm really looking for is that people are now thinking that this is going to sell, and we just pull back in. So we do sell off a little bit, and then we just pull back in, or for a day we sell, we create sort of a very consolidated candle, and then by midweek, late week, we're kind of just back up here, and then we're creating a flag, and then we're going in for the long. And that's one of the reasons why I left it as a wild card, because I don't want to be getting caught into price here, even though it could look like we might be in a strong bearish continuation. This has been a very, very corrective squeeze low. So it's built up a lot of momentum for the possibility for it to, yes, continue in the higher time frame impulse correction continuation, but also to pull all the way back up here for it to short. So there could be some solid trades in here just to get to this high. So that's something I'm interested in. Also, we could move up with a lot of aggression. We don't have to move in the traditional, very corrective squeezes that we see. It could get corrective in the middle and then push up, get corrective towards the end. But I think during the beginning stage, we might see this very strong impulsive move, which I'm looking for. So that's basically my take on. Awesome. So the next one I've got now is Aussie CAD. Aussie CAD is actually an awesome pair as well. I'm not going to lie, this is so cool. We've moved up with strong aggression, absolutely, completely fine. But we've had a strong weekly rejection here. Now, one candle doesn't change everything, but we tapped into this inflection point over here. As we can see that we tapped into this inflection point. There is a higher value area that we are going to be eventually making our way to, I believe. But I think at the moment, with that strong aggression, we're seeing impulse, correction, continuation. There's a small little inflection point I'm seeing over here and here. So if we can tap in down and then come in with a 1, 2, 3, I'll look for a push down and a flag. Or if we extend and go all the way back up here, I'll look for a push down and a flag from there. That's basically how I'm going to be looking to take it. But then this could become a little bit larger. And then if it does come larger, I wouldn't be surprised if we create a larger 1, 2, 3. This being 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, and then out. That's how I'll be looking at it. So that's basically it for Aussie CAD. Next one I'm looking at is Euro Aussie. Yeah, Euro Aussie is cool, honestly. Euro Aussie is essentially, it's got momentum, honestly, man. I think it's just a shame I missed it. Just couldn't read between the lines. Just one of them ones that, a lot of lessons for me. There was a lot to take. I just didn't know. I didn't know how to take it. It was just I was looking for it to come back down to this low, and I thought it would be nice and clean, but there was more than enough for it to go. We had this corrective squeeze there, and then we pushed it. Just it's one of them. I know some people actually caught this trade, and I'd like to know how I could improve on it. So I have to go back and analyze it a lot more. But we've got some override points here that I'll be looking at. I think it's very interesting that now that we've got that strong impulse. So impulse, correction, continuation, looking at another correction for more further continuation. So to move into the next impulsive move, I'm looking for a little push down, push back up, a flag, continuation, another flag, continuation. So we'll have to wait and see. Does this get a little bit more complicated? It's very much possible that we can actually start correcting, coming back down here and then go. So I'll be looking at that very carefully, but at the moment, there's more than enough in here for me to, definitely say this trade's ready to go. So what I did see was this sort of section here, and I was looking at the 1, 2, 3. Would it correct, come all the way back down here, get the buy, and then the move goes? That would have been a phenomenal position. Unfortunately, I didn't get it, but I did learn something from it, which is very fortunate. So extremely happy that this played out in the end into the favor of the direction I was looking at. Just need to get a better understanding for the future. So that's basically it for EA, looking for push down, push up, and I believe last but not least is on my wildcards Euro GBP. Euro GBP as well needs some time to develop, hence the reason why it's on here. I think with Euro GBP, what I'm kind of looking at is similar to EA. It was a mistrade for me. I was looking for a little bit too much, I believe. So we had the higher value area. We tapped into it. We started correctively squeezing and we pushed down. As we created this, I thought maybe we'll have one more push down before we go. However, we just ended up going, and it is what it is. And it was just off some CPI news or something, I believe, as well, that just created some volatility and kind of shook me out of the market at that point. But anyway, so we had this strong impulse. Now I'm looking for a little bit of a larger flag to give that pole to the extension. So I'd like to see something very similar in this light. I'd like to see a 1, 2, 3. Well, this is actually two touches in my opinion, but coming in here where this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and then off. So yeah, so it's correctively squeezed there, correctively comes back up. Maybe this will be a stronger impulse down, taps into here, push back up, flag, push up another flag, and let's go. And then we kind of make our way all the way up here, which gives us the same momentum we saw here, tapping into override 1 and 2, and then we could see price either reject from there and look to go short again. So that's basically it for Euro GBP. It's a late one. It may not even shape up this week. I'll be honest with you. It may shape up towards the end of the week, which is kind of what I'm counting on. I'll be honest with you. I think more so, if I'm looking at it, it's more so like this, where I think price can get very corrective and then move down quite aggressively and then push up, and then it can do whatever it needs to do. But that's basically what I'm looking at. So does it shape up this week? Does it shape up next week? Who knows, to be honest. But I think there's enough here for it to shape up this week. So I'll wait and see. But it's basically what I'm looking at for the week ahead. So have a good week, guys. Actually, sorry, what am I saying? Let's jump into the ones. Okay, awesome. So these are the ones that I filtered out was Euro USD. By no means did I filter these out because of any other reason than I just just saw more interest in other pairs, but we're basically at that override point. So early morning Asian session, market open, we could see price pull back up, create an entry, and shoot up. I think that's a strong possibility. However, this can correct a little bit further and then come back up. So I think there's a few things, but I think with that corrective squeeze here, we could see a strong push up, flag, and let's go for the long during Asian session, and that would be no surprise for it to make it to this high. Um, so that's one thing. New Zealand CAD as well. I think New Zealand CAD is very nice. New Zealand CAD has that nice little scoop. We've had that push away. Are we creating this extra scoop here? Tap into this override and sell. That was another one I was looking at. However, looking at the strong bullish aggression, I was kind of like, well, I'm not going to opt into this one because I'm already involved in, I think it was Aussie CAD, and I'd rather opt into Aussie CAD because it's already had a bit of commitment. If this gets a little bit more commitment is down here, then I'll be putting that on watch for sure. USD CAD, USD CAD definitely has very nice potential, but I think it's aggressively moving up at the moment, and I think it could be trying to make it back up to this high, this high. It's not too clear for me to really want to get involved. We have been moving very correctively, and we're tapping into this double top. So it would make sense why a lot of people would be looking for a short in this area here, because what we can see is that if we read a little bit between the lines, we have got this sort of, well, nah, I don't know. It's just a lot going on. I think I wouldn't be surprised if this just corrects and goes up here and taps into this override. So, I think given the circumstance of this correction pushing up, we might just get momentum and go. Would we get a clear entry? Maybe, maybe not. I love USD CAD, but honestly, at the moment, I'm just not feeling it. So, I wouldn't be surprised if this does go, and then I'm looking back on it and like, oh, I missed something. But at the same time, I've got so much I'm looking at on my watch list. I don't think I need to worry too much about this at the moment. This can get a little bit more complicated. New Zealand CAD, I think New Zealand CAD selling off as well could be a possibility, but also same weekly put me off a bit as well. I want to see something significant on the higher time frame before I go. This little squeeze here is not really enough. I think that will get filled, and then we might see something. Euro yen. Euro yen's one that I kind of wanted to put on, but then at the same time, I was kind of a bit, yeah, I think looking at it on a daily, we basically tapped in here, and now we've had that aggressive sort of daily retrace, which is very nice. Seeing a small correction over here would be no surprise. If we get something like this, honestly, that would be enough for this to just go. So, looking at that, I think that's a nice trade in itself. Um, GBP CAD as well. GBP CAD tapped into this inflection point, nothing significant. I think for that reason, I was kind of just a little bit off put. It was just a bit of a selling sort of momentum there, which we haven't had in a while. Don't want to get caught on the wrong side of the market, but we had that strong sell aggression, very steep sort of flag momentum here, but something like this. And then it's just kind of like, what's really the game move? Is it just kind of sold off a little bit, take out some profits or whatever? There's just so many things that can go on. If we're selling off like that from here, it would make more sense to me, but there's nothing of significance pointing out to me to say I want to be getting involved in this market right now. So, you can say that there's that weekly sort of bullish inflection cap point, but same thing. I would like to see price kind of aggressively show more of its pattern. So yeah, that's basically it for the ones that I filtered out. The Cayenne list, which is my next week potential shape up, is this one. I think this definitely has potential to kind of create something a little bit better, maybe a 1 2 3. I think just got to give it some time, but I wouldn't be surprised if this aggressively pushes up and then we're all the way up here somewhere, and then I'm looking at this like, wow, okay, cool, this could be the 1 2 3 I'm looking for. So no surprise if this moves up aggressively and we tap into that, and then we start seeing it sell, and then next week I'll be getting involved in the position. And that was it. The rest I kind of filtered out. I didn't really have much interest um, in the indices. Yeah, this is what I was looking at. 1, 2, 3, push down, flag, came back up, refilled, and now we're selling off aggressively. Could see some strong aggressive moves now. Honestly, I think there's more than enough in this whole picture here for this to sell. But then looking at a few other pairs, it's already begun. The Germany 30 as well, I think, with the near miss there as well, kind of giving me that feeling like we could gravitate back up as well. Don't have to tap into that. There's a 1, 2, 3 in here as well. But once again, US UK 100, same situation. NAS 100. I think there's so many things happening. I think Euro 50 is actually phenomenal. Honestly, phenomenal. I think if I was going to trade a indice, Euro 50 would be one of them, because what I'm seeing here is tight correction, and are we just going to see that continue where we push down, create another tight correction, push down, another tight correction, push down, and so forth, and we just keep going, aggressive push, tight correction, aggressive push, tight correction, and next thing you know, we're all the way down here thinking, wow, how many times could I have scaled and got involved in Euro 50? So I think Euro 50 is one that might surprise a lot of people. I think there's a lot of opportunity in there, but same thing. I wanted to stick to Forex. I'm going to stick to Forex this week. I like to check it out next week and see how it played out. Got a lifetime ahead of me to take advantage of things like this. So it's interesting seeing the similar price action on France 40 across the board. Honestly, it's going to see how that plays. JP 225 is one that I wanted to just finalize this with. I'm not going to go into the commodities or anything else just because there's no need for me to. But we basically have this sort of expanding here. If I go to the daily, what we can see here is we've got an inflection point, and essentially you can look at it two ways. I think more so the bear flag is interesting as well. If you look at it like this, it would be no surprise if we did see this kind of sell off. And then, sorry, pull back and actually go off aggressively. Because if I look at it on the 4-hour, what we have is we haven't really tapped into anything, and we just kind of pull back. We correctively squeezed up, but created a lot of inflection points on the way. We could essentially see this coming over here, correctively squeeze up, push down, and this could be a base for it to now just kind of top up and then just go. It's not the cleanest, absolutely not. I would fully hands down say, there could be a lot more pairs out there, but the reason why I kind of went for the expanding is it makes more sense in line with something else. But I wouldn't cross this sort of angle off. I'd say looking at it like this, it's a possibility where we've kind of correctively moved here. We couldn't kind of feel that push down, and if we do start aggressively pushing up, then we go off and look at some of the yen pairs. We can see, is that really a surprise, to see that aggressive sell now, because we've seen that aggressive push, and then we see it over here as well, aggressive sell, it's all in line. So seeing a strong bullish a strong bull run on the JP225 would make sense, because it would be in line with the Japanese yen pairs. So that's basically what I'm going to be looking at for next week. I think Aussie 200 is also quite nice. We tapped into a high value area, we pushed down, created this flag, and we're continuing. So if this does continue, we could see a lot of counter pairs really moving with aggression as well, like GA and so forth. So it's just something I'm looking at. This could become a little bit larger. There's a lot of variations, but that's it basically for this week. So yeah, have a good weekend, and